I'm State Representative Bill LaVoy. Welcome to Capital Connection, my cable show bringing the people of the 17th House District news from our state capitol. I'm honored to represent you and be the voice of the 17th District in the state capitol. Joining me today is Jack Schmitt, Political Director of the Michigan League of Conservation Voters. Today we'll be discussing Great Michigan and some of the environmental issues currently facing our state. Great Michigan represents a collaborative effort among 34 organizations in Michigan's environmental and conservation community. Michigan is known for our Great Lakes and beautiful landscapes, and it is important to protect our environment for future generations. Today, Jack is going to talk with us a little about how you can stay informed and up to date on environmental issues and how you can help to keep Michigan great. Jack, welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm going to start right out with the questions.
All right.
So, obviously we're talking about Great Michigan today.
Yep.
First of all, and probably very simply to figure out, is what is Great Michigan?
Yep, so as you mentioned in your introduction, Great Michigan is a collaborative effort. It's a program that we run at the Michigan League of Conservation Voters to bring together groups from around the state, everything from kind of small regional organizations that maybe work on a particular watershed or river, to large statewide organizations that work on environmental issues, to come to a set of consensus priorities of, these are the most important environmental conservation issues facing the state, and these are the policy changes that we think need to happen to make sure that we're protecting our environment, protecting our Great Lakes. It's also meant to be a resource for the public. So not only is this a priority setting process, it's also an opportunity for Michigan citizens to come and learn about the most pressing environmental and conservation issues facing the state of Michigan right now.
That's great.
Yeah, it's we're pretty proud of it. It's a great program.
How long has Great Michigan been around?
So we convene this priority setting process every 2 years, kind of along with your legislative session cycle. Starts a new session every 2 years. And we've been now doing this for 2 legislative sessions, so 4 years total. And this year, when we did it prior to the session, was certainly the most widely participated. Like you said in your introduction, we had slightly more than 30 groups. I think 34 groups participate from around the state.
And that's wonderful to have that number of groups that are willing to make their opinions known and kind of help the legislators make the laws and the policy that drives the state.
So, no, that's exactly right.
And kind of along that same idea, what makes Great Michigan successful? Obviously, the number of groups is one reason, and who is specifically involved in the program?
Yep. I think the number of groups is a big part of the success. I think being able to identify a set of key priorities. There are obviously in a state like Michigan where we're surrounded by Great Lakes, we've got forests, we've got all these natural resources. There are a lot of different environmental issues, and so being able to point to 3 or 4 kind of top priorities, these are the most pressing, I think is a key part of what makes it effective. And I also think the range of groups that participate. We've got everything from the Michigan Recycling Coalition to Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice to Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council is up in northern Michigan. So these are groups that work on everything from recycling issues to energy issues to land protection, Great Lakes protection. It's a really wide range of issue groups. So to have that many groups and that diverse a set of interests come together and say, hey, we think that there are a set of priorities that we can all agree on being the most important, I think is what really makes this effective. Also, the work that we've done to engage communities around the state and engage lawmakers so that we can help educate the people, educate those who are making decisions and passing laws that are really important for our state on what those issues are.
So what do you do? Obviously, you're here today on the cable show, but besides doing video, what else does Great Michigan do to get its message out?
Well, we do video. We also, do our best to get out in all kind of traditional forms of media, to get newspaper articles about some of these issues, to get folks to write letters to the editor on some of these issues. We also sit down and do meetings with legislators. You and I have sat down once before to talk about these priorities, and myself and a number of different groups come to Lansing on as often as they can to talk about what these priorities issues are and the policy changes we see. We also do our best to hold kind of public forum events in communities so that we can actually bring some of the experts from these organizations to your community or to West Michigan to educate folks on what these issues are.
Yeah, which is great, like doing a town hall type
Exactly.
meeting, which is wonderful to get the public input on some of those ideas, as well as educating the public. So what are your three main priorities?
Three main priorities. Very simply stated, they are great energy, great water, and great land. You know, we kind of keep the great going consistently throughout all of them and through the title. You know, I'd be happy to get into some of the specific policy asks and kind of what these issues are and why they're important. But you know, very generally speaking, it's looking to get energy from renewable sources and moving towards increasing energy efficiency programs. It's protecting our water, making sure that protections are in place for you know, large quantity water users. You know, to make sure that our lakes, rivers, streams, Great Lakes are there for future generations. And then, you know, it's protecting the land that makes Michigan a great tourist destination. Those are the three general topics.
If these priorities aren't taken care of, what are some possible negative effects as far as our state goes? And I can think of a few, but I'm going to defer to you as the expert on this.
Yeah, and I'd welcome your input as well. It boils down, frankly, to kind of three main areas, in my mind. The first is the economy. You know, each of these issues and protecting our natural resources at its heart is really about, it's an economic issue. You know, so many of Michigan's industries and economic drivers are based on our natural resources, and making sure that we protect those so that we can continue to use them in a way that preserves those resources for future generations is really important. The other aspect of this is quality of life. You know, we hear, and I'm sure you have heard study after study that shows more and more businesses and individuals are locating to states and communities based on a quality of life. You know, there are good parks, there are opportunities for recreation. And then the third component of this is about protecting our environment and making sure that, you know, we've done a lot of work in this country, a lot of great work over the past 40 or 50 years to make sure that we're protecting our air, our land, our water. And so it's making sure that we continue in that stewardship as we go forward.
Well, and I agree with all of those, which is wonderful. And I'm going to give some specific examples. One of them is the 17th district borders on Lake Erie.
Yeah.
And if there's an environmental issue with the lake, obviously that can affect sport fishing. It can affect swimming even. Sterling State Park, which is one of the biggest most well-used state parks in the state.
It's a beautiful park too,
And
a great beach there.
It is,
Yeah.
and you look at problems with invasives. We've had a zebra mussel problem there, and still parts of the year they wash up on the beach, and it's very hard to walk on the beach. Also, I think with drinking water issues, poisoning the water isn't a great thing for anybody to do, and not to say that there's specific businesses that do that, but we have an area of concern in the River Raisin that's still being cleaned up that's a problem with prior business practices that allowed kind of the dumping of poisonous elements into the water, which I think was a problem. We're also trying to, down by us, do some more of that placemaking kind of thing that you were alluding to with the quality of life.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to do some planning on many levels. We have a National Battlefield Park now in the Monroe area, which is wonderful, courtesy of Congressman Dingell, and a lot of other people that worked very hard to get that done. There were people who said it couldn't be done, and it's there. There's also a River Raisin National Battlefield Park Foundation now to provide some support for the national park. As well as I had mentioned Sterling State Park earlier, and then some of the businesses that own land along the lake shore. There's a international wildlife refuge. It's Canada and Michigan, and that's also in
the country, unique in the world. Really.
Absolutely, it is, and it's wonderful that we have all of those assets. So I think it's really important all three of the issues that you spoke about to make sure that those can continue for everyone to enjoy in later generations.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you touched on really. I think a lot of times we hear some kind of conflict maybe between environmental protection and the economy, and I think you touched on exactly why that's maybe a false idea. So many of these natural resources we have to protect for our economy. Tourism is a big driver of our economy here in Michigan.
It absolutely is. So, where can interested people go for more information?
Well, this is an easy one. We've got a website, www.greatmichigan.org, that is constantly updated with, if there are specific bills that are moving through the legislature, moving through committees. We keep updates there. We're doing research and putting stories up there. Our partner organizations are putting updates there. So our website is one great initial starting point. We also have, all the social media properties. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, so that you can get live updates on what's happening in the legislature and what's happening on these priority issue areas. So, and the links for those are on our website. I would encourage folks to go to our website as a starting point.
Well, and that's always great to be able to contact the people who are putting this information out for Great Michigan. So I thank you for that information. In conclusion, I wanted to thank you, Jack, for being here. Once again, you're the political director of the League of Conservation Voters. And that's in my paper. If you want to stay informed on environmental issues, please log on to greatmichigan.org, as Jack had mentioned. I look forward to another discussion soon about a topic that affects the quality of life here in our community and throughout the state. I also encourage you to contact me, or if you have any questions or concerns, or if I can be of any help, please join me next time. Until then, goodbye.